My sister-in-law treats me like a free babysitter for her daughter. But this time I gave her the wake-up call she deserved. When my sister-in-law and her family moved in with us temporarily, I didn't expect to become the default caregiver for her daughter. What followed was a surprising turn of events that taught us all valuable lessons about respect, responsibility, and the importance of clear communication in family dynamics. My name is Laura. I'm a mother to 2 amazing kids and married to a truly supportive husband, John. Our home is usually filled with warmth and laughter, the kind of place where little feet run down the hallway, where dinner is often loud and messy, and where bedtime stories are the highlight of the day. It's a busy, joyful kind of chaos that we've grown to love. But over the past month, our home has started to feel less like our own and more like a busy transit zone. The reason? My sister-in-law, Sarah, her husband, and their 9-year-old daughter, Mia, have moved in temporarily. They're waiting for their new house to be ready, which won't happen until September. When they first asked to stay with us, I didn't hesitate to say yes. It felt like the right thing to do, to offer a helping hand to family, but I never expected that gesture would turn into a daily struggle for balance, boundaries, and patience. At first, I thought we would all manage just fine. They were family, after all, and it was only for a few months. Sarah and her husband both work full-time, which is completely understandable. John and I work too, and we know how tough it can be to juggle everything. But what I hadn't expected was that I'd somehow become the default caregiver for Mia. During the day, there was no conversation about it, no planning or agreement, just an unspoken assumption that I would take care of their child as if she were my own. Every morning, as Sarah rushed out the door, Mia would be left in my care. Sometimes it was phrased as a question, but always in a way that didn't really give me a choice. "I just need to run some errands, Laura. Can Mia stay with you?" She'd ask casually, as if it were no big deal. Other times it wasn't, even phrased as a request. "Laura's taking the kids to the park tomorrow. You can go with them, Mia," she'd say to her daughter. It was always assumed, always expected. And it wasn't just during work hours, even on weekends. When Sarah and her husband were home, Mia was often sent to me with a quick explanation, Sarah needing to nap, her husband catching up on work, or simply wanting some quiet time. While I adore Mia and love having her around, it started to feel less like a family favor and more like a full-time responsibility that had been handed to me without my consent. What made it harder was the fact that I still had to care for my own 2 kids. My days were filled with meals, laundry, activities, and keeping the peace among 3 children with different needs and personalities. It was a lot to manage, and I started to feel invisible in my own home, expected to handle it all, quietly and without complaint. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. John and I had planned a special outing for our children, a day at an amusement park they had been looking forward to for weeks. It was meant to be a day just for us, a small escape from the routine, and a chance to spend some quality time as a family. The kids were thrilled, and we were just as excited to have a day focused solely on them. But right as we were getting ready to leave, Sarah pulled John aside. I wasn't part of the conversation, but I watched as her words slowly changed his expression. She had told him that Mia had been looking forward to this outing too, and asked how we could possibly leave her behind. Her tone must have carried enough guilt because I saw John hesitate, his shoulders drop, and then he looked at me and quietly said, "We should bring Mia too. It wasn't her fault. She's just a child." But I felt like our day had been taken from us. We bought an extra ticket and made space for her, even though it meant splitting our attention and energy even further. What made it worse was what happened the next day. Sarah and her husband took Mia to a different amusement park, just the 3 of them. They made sure to tell our kids they couldn't come along because, as Sarah put it, they just wanted to hang out with their kid. I was stunned. After all that guilt tripping, after taking away our family's special day, they went out and had their own without including our children. That moment hurt more than I expected. It wasn't just about the extra work or added responsibilities anymore, it had become something deeper. It was about fairness and respect, about feeling seen in my own home. It made everything clear. The generosity we had offered had been taken for granted. I wasn't just helping, I was being used. My husband John felt it too. The imbalance, the tension, the way our days slowly shifted to accommodate someone else's family without any real acknowledgement or gratitude. It had been weighing on both of us. So, last Friday, I finally said something. I had rehearsed it in my mind 100 times, waiting for the right moment. With my voice calm but firm, I told Sarah the truth. I explained that from now on, unless Mia was explicitly invited, she wouldn't automatically be part of our family plans. I also made it clear that I could no longer be her full-time unspoken babysitter. "Sarah," I said, carefully choosing my words, "I love Mia, but I'm not the default caregiver. You need to arrange proper childcare." Sarah's face didn't change much. She offered a light apology, something along the lines of, "I just thought it gave the kids someone to play with." But her voice lacked sincerity. Her tone was smooth, practiced, too smooth. It didn't match the subtle manipulation I had grown used to hearing in her words, but this time, I didn't let it slide. With John out of town that weekend, I decided it was time to finally draw a real line. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. I needed to shift the dynamic, for the sake of my sanity and my family's peace. Saturday morning came, and it was supposed to be a fresh start. I had secretly planned a surprise outing for my children, a day at the newly opened water park in town. It had been a long week, and we all needed a bit of fun. I wanted the day to be just about them. No drama, no guilt, no extra obligations. I was packing up towels, swimsuits, snacks, and sunscreen when I heard light footsteps behind me in the laundry room. I turned and saw Mia standing there, a big grin on her face. She was already dressed in a bright swimsuit, holding a beach towel and a small bag. "Aunt Laura," she said excitedly. "My mom said I'm coming with you guys to the water park today." My heart sank. Not because of Mia, I loved that little girl, but because of what it meant. I had made it clear to Sarah that this kind of assumption had to stop, and yet here we were again. Trying to keep my voice light, I said, "Oh, Mia, I didn't know about this. Let me check with your mom quickly, okay?" I found Sarah in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table, sipping coffee like it was just another relaxed weekend morning. When I asked her about Mia joining us, she barely looked up. "Yeah, I told her she could go. It's more fun when everyone's together, right?" There it was again. That dismissive, casual assumption that our plans, our family time, should always include her child, because it was easier for her that way. Then, as I tried to push back gently, Sarah added, "You wouldn't leave a kid home alone while you're off having fun, would you?" That was it. I saw red. She had twisted the situation once again to make herself the victim and me the villain. I said nothing more in that moment. I took the kids and Mia, because of course I wouldn't leave a child alone, but inside I was already planning something. Later that evening, after we returned home from what was meant to be a special day, I sat down at my laptop. If Sarah didn't understand direct words, maybe it was time for a different kind of lesson, one that came in the form of an opportunity too good for her to resist. I spent the next hour crafting a fake professional event invitation, something that looked polished and official. I titled it Professional Growth and Development Seminar for Emerging Leaders. It was a supposed networking event designed specifically for her field of work. I made sure the date matched one of her scheduled days off. The description talked about personal branding, career elevation, and connecting with influential names in the industry. I even added an RSVP link that led to a confirmation page I created just for this. When I handed her the invitation the next morning, Sarah's eyes lit up. "Laura, this is amazing," she said, holding the paper like it was a golden ticket. "It's just what I need right now to boost my career." I smiled, nodded, and simply said, "That sounds great, Sarah. I hope it turns out to be very beneficial for you," I said with a pleasant smile, hiding the truth behind my words. Deep down, I knew exactly what I was doing. I had spent weeks feeling taken for granted, constantly expected to be the caretaker for someone else's child without so much as a proper request or thank you. This seminar was my way of gently pushing Sarah to see what I had been going through. The day of the so-called event arrived. Sarah woke up early and spent nearly an hour getting ready. She looked more excited than I had seen her in weeks. Dressed in her sharpest outfit, makeup perfectly done, her confidence glowing. I watched her flutter around the house, straightening her hair and checking her reflection in the mirror multiple times. She seemed truly optimistic, as if this would be the day her career turned a corner. Just as she was about to head out the door, purse in hand and heels clicking against the floor, she turned to me. "Oh, by the way, you don't mind watching Mia, do you? Just until I get back." The moment had come. I smiled warmly and nodded. "Of course, go ahead. We'll be fine." She left without a second thought. Everything was going according to plan. The house felt lighter when she was gone, almost as if a storm cloud had passed. I settled Mia down with a craft kit and my own kids with a movie, giving myself a quiet moment to breathe. But a few hours later, my phone rang. The screen lit up with Sarah's name, and I could already feel the tension through the ringtone. I answered, and her voice erupted through the line, furious. "Laura, this isn't a professional seminar. It's a parenting class, about balancing work and family life. Why would you do this to me?" I stayed calm. "I thought it might be helpful, Sarah," I said softly. "We all need a little guidance sometimes." There was silence on the other end. Then a quick, "I can't believe you tricked me. This is low even for you," before she hung up. Not long after, I heard the front door swing open. Sarah came storming in, her heels clacking angrily against the floor. Her face was red, her jaw tight with frustration. I braced myself for another argument, but before she could speak, the front door opened again, and in walked my husband, John. He had just returned from his work trip and stepped right into the thick of the tension. He paused for only a moment, taking in the scene. "What's going on?" he asked, setting down his suitcase. Sarah turned toward him, but before she could say a word, John raised his hand gently and spoke with quiet authority. I heard enough when I walked in. "Sarah, this has to stop." She looked surprised, her anger faltering. But "No buts," John said firmly. "Laura's been more than patient, more than generous, and honestly, she's gone above and beyond. You can't keep expecting her to watch Mia without asking, And you definitely can't keep treating our home like it's yours to manage. Sarah looked down at the floor, her fingers nervously twisting the strap of her purse. You need to start respecting our boundaries, John continued. Laura isn't Mia's parent. You are. It's time you stepped up and handled your own responsibilities. There was a long silence. Then slowly, Sarah nodded. You're right, she said in a quiet voice. I'm sorry, Laura. I've been selfish. Something changed in that moment. Maybe it was the look on Sarah's face, part shame, part realization. Or maybe it was the weight lifted from finally hearing my husband stand up and speak the truth aloud. Whatever it was, it marked the beginning of a shift. From that day forward, the atmosphere in our home started to change. Sarah stopped assuming I would take care of Mia. She started arranging proper childcare, or at the very least asking before. Making plans. She began managing her time more carefully, making sure she wasn't leaving her daughter in someone else's hands without warning. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Over time, our home started to feel like ours again. The laughter of our kids returned without being overshadowed by frustration or tension. The walls no longer echoed with unspoken resentments. I had stood my ground, not out of pettiness, but out of necessity, and it had worked. Looking back on those weeks, I realized how vital it is to set boundaries, especially with family. It wasn't just about me feeling overwhelmed. It was about teaching Sarah the value of shared respect and responsibility. She wasn't a bad mother, just a tired one, perhaps too used to leaning on others without realizing the burden it placed. Our relationship improved, not because I tricked her, but because we finally had the conversation we had been avoiding for too long. That uncomfortable moment opened the door to real change. And in the end, our home returned to what it once was, a place of love, laughter, and now, mutual understanding. Sometimes, the most difficult moments are the ones that lead us exactly where we need to go.